Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today's episode is all about the generation gap, the values and tradition our parents have, and the values and traditions we have, and communication and fears of our children and us that we face and how we face it. Let's start with Sister Shanaz.
Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners and viewers. Alhamdulillah, each generation has their own challenges. Each generation has their own strategies to cope with those challenges. And each generation builds their life around these challenges, hoping that they can overcome them and then their children don't have to go through those things. The generation gap is a very real thing. You might be a very young parent, but you will still have a gap between you and your child. 15, 16, 18, whatever many years. And some parents are a lot older. They might have the 30-year gap or something. The gap is not only because of the years that you have between them, but because of the era that you have grown up in. So your communication is going to be different to how your parents have communicated to you. If you remember back in our days, our parents were always very authoritative. They would always, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, go and do this, go and do that. We can't use that authority now. We have to do it in a way where it's like an all-inclusive, like they are included in your decisions, not like our parents did. They make the decisions and you just followed. And now the children are very different. You can't make decisions for them and they won't follow you just because you've made the decision. So in order to make any decision, you have to make sure that everyone that you're making a decision for is involved. So there's you have these conflicts in families, and these conflicts don't necessarily have to be between the parent and the child because there's a generation gap. It could be between the children amongst themselves. So conflicts are a given thing for any people that live together, any persons under one roof. And this is like emotionally when you are expected to live in a generation that has already passed. For instance, if I'm expecting my children to live like I did as a child, for instance, one of the I'll tell you how we were when we were children, and all the people that grew up here who are my age will sort of like will think, yes, this is me, rather than just me. It's all of us. Like we'd get up in the morning, would clean the house, would make breakfast, and when your brothers woke up, you made them breakfast as well. But now I can't imagine my children making each other breakfast or waiting for a male child to wake up so the female child can make them breakfast. So it was a generation thing at the time. It was a generation issue at the time, and our parents probably did this for their when they were growing up. But now for us, this is very different. Like you wouldn't treat your female children differently to your male children. So this generation conflict has actually moved and evolved and become very different. And in some sense, the generation, if the parental generation is from Pakistan and the children have grown up here, not back in our days, because we were never allowed to think that we were grown up here. We always had to think with our Pakistani hat on. But now the children that grow up here and the parents are probably our age and they're from Pakistan, the children actually take the lead in all decisions, and they're the ones telling parents what to do and how to do it and how it's done, which, I think has its own problems.
Yeah, exactly. That you are just on spot, Janas, because the thing that you described, that how we grow up, the things we have done, that the things our parents done, the ambience in the home is authoritative, where parents said and we do. We don't. They don't ask our opinions. If we ever even try to voice our opinion, is kind of forbidden. How could you talk back? How could you say things to the parents? How could you even voice what you want, what you need? Everything is given to you. Like, you want food, whatever food is there, you have to eat it. You want clothes, this is our way of clothing. You can't wear what you like. This is how we dress up as a girl or boy. this is what you have to wear. No, these are dress up set up for you. And then, career choice. This is what the girls can do. This is what the boys have to do. Do you have a career? Is depending on, are you working in a school, hospital? Okay, good. If you are going want to do anything else, is not allowed. And now then, we in all these restrictions and all these setting up the boundaries, the setup for us, which is the culturally aware, some religiously aware. The religious is on the blended and the culture is blended. These are not that, you are doing it because the Islam says you to do that. It's not you are doing it because you have a Pakistani background. That's why you have to do it. You are being compared to the Pakistan who they left 20 years back. They don't know what happened, what changes are become in the Pakistan norms, but you are still stuck onto this certain set of rules and regulations. And voicing up for the girls is no way. You become an adult, get married, have your own home and setting and setup, and you get with that mindset, I'm not going to do that. But you are not aware of what you are going to do. And this is when you bring up your children with that, I'm not going to say this to my children. You give them whole lot of space without any restriction, and sometimes for some people it's bounce back. And this is our today's discussion is all about the creating balance, what you are bringing up from your values and the rituals from your parents and applying them, and what you are leaving them, and how you are accommodating the children now, who is more aware of their needs, their wants, and they are more authoritative, and they know how to voice it up because we raise them in a way where they have space to speak up. And the world around us evolved because of the media, because of the phone, because of the television, because of more culturally aware things, and the whatever the environment, they go out for 9 hours out of the home and they are picking up things and bringing them in the home. And how we can't stop them, we haven't strategized about that. And this is sometimes really really trickier for us to parent, and we are very vulnerable in that position because of our own unawareness. Let's take Sister Shana's opinion onto that, how she cope up with that situation and what is the real life scenario for her.
Uh, uh, um, when we were growing up, it was not only was it the generation gap issue, but
Hmm.
you also had the issue of immigrant, your parents were immigrants in this country.
Yeah.
And it was a new lifestyle, a new beginning, a new everything. Not undo everything that we were going to embrace. No, I don't think any of that generation, because don't forget, my parents would have been here 58, 59 years now if they were still alive. That's how long they would have been in this country.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't come to this country to embrace it. They came to this country to work, um, earn loads of money, stack it together, and take it back to Pakistan, and everybody enjoy themselves over there. But of course, it wasn't meant to be like that because everybody gets used to the lifestyle in England, and your children grow up and they don't want to go back. So the parents have to stay because they have to stay around the children. So that generation, the issues weren't just about the generation gap, the issues were around everything else as well. And I think we spoke quite a bit about this last week as well when we did the Lost Generation episode.
Yeah.
So it's really complex, this generation gap for us, and there's certain generation values that our parents would have had. And one of the ones that I've mentioned earlier is the fact that if you go to someone's house who's passed away, my parents would never ever eat at their house because they just felt that those people have too much to cope with already, and you look very bad sitting there and eating. And that was obviously part of their values, part of who they were, how they respected the people who had had a bereavement in the family, how they felt they could contribute to that person's well-being or help that person in these ways. Whereas nowadays we just look at it as oh, they're saying come and eat, let's go and eat. So it's things are in their life, things were, they thought about why we're not doing what we're doing. Whereas with us, we think about, we're doing this because it's just available. So we've just gone ahead, and someone's just said, and we've just gone ahead and joined them. So their thinking was very in depth. And now looking at them, you admire them for their thinking, and you admire them for their want of helping others, even though it's in a very simple manner, but it is still the concept of trying to help somebody else. And it's parents always said that they've done everything for you, like they've sent you, they've educated you, they've provided for you, they've clothed you. But then I think if these are the things that we would never say to our children, because if you have children, then of course you're going to educate them, of course you're going to provide for them, of course you're going to clothe them, because it's part of life. It's, you chose to have these children, so
Yeah.
you have to bring them up. So that's another very, sort of like a very big difference between the generation before us and us, because it was always like, look what we've done for you. But then
Yeah.
we can't say that to our children, because our children would come right back and straight to your face. They would say, well, we didn't ask you to have us. So
That's true.
it's really it's quite shocking how things have changed, because we would never have said that to our parents. But if
No.
we try and say to our children, well, I've done this for you, I've done this for you, and they say, well, who asked you to have us anyway? And it's a parent's job to do all of these things, and we wouldn't dare say to our parents, it's a parent's job to do all of these things. And they was like, it's a parent's job. You chose to have children, so you bring them up. So, we shouldn't get stuck in these, I grew up like this, so I expect my children to grow up like this. No, it's not going to happen. Your time was different, your parents were different, your era was different, and your children's time is different. You are the parent, so their era is different, and therefore your lifestyles are going to be totally different, and your thinking pattern is going to be different as well. Whereas we often felt like we had to tell our parents where we were going, when we were coming back. If we were to go out, you had to have someone come with you, sister, sister-in-law, brother, or your parents would come to the bus stop to pick you up if they knew you were coming home late from work. And now that, you mention that to your children and they just laugh in your face. Why would we want to take our brother with us? Why would we want to take our sister with us? Why do you want to come to the bus stop to pick me up? I'm, if anything happens, I'm young, I can run. You'll be the one that will be stuck, Mum. So it's, like it's really, it's you growing up and them growing up is totally different.
So totally agree that on this point. And secondly, we might have the cars in a really late age. The first thing nowadays children do by the 18, learn driving and have the car. They don't even
Yeah,
bothered about the bus stop or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Their first goal in the life is that getting the license, getting the car, and getting the petrol. That's what they want to do. So here we will talk about that, the other part of this generation gap is not only the authority, but the fears and the boundaries. Our parents keep that boundaries in a different way on the different things, but we are in a different era where the boundaries are different, and we are able to set them up, and what the boundaries could be. Are these boundaries are about the culture or the religion, because the dynamics of our time is totally changed. What do you think, Sister Shenas?
Definitely. The boundaries when we were growing up, so our parents' boundaries would be totally different to the boundaries that we have for our children. For instance, like I said about picking somebody up from the bus stop if you were working late, or going out with somebody. So those were the things that our parents had in place, that it had to happen, because otherwise they wouldn't feel safe. Whereas we're quite safe with them going out on their own. Like you say, everybody has a car, so that's fine. I mean, even I had a car at that time, but you could just never get in your car and go. You just had to have permission. Whereas now, I could, like my children have car, and I wouldn't be able to dictate to them when they drove that car. That's not really that's not a me choice. That's a them choice.
Yeah.
So their boundaries would be, well, you can't do this because what will the community think? You can't dress in a certain way. For instance, wearing jeans and stuff, it would be like, oh, what a terrible person you are. And now everybody wears jeans. Your children wear them, you wear them yourselves. Our parents never did that. They never wore jeans. They never wore, they never left the house without a scarf, whereas, you know, we were at that time young and not practicing. So we wanted to leave the house without a scarf. And obviously there was always that battle that you were fighting with your with that generation and you. Whereas now we don't have those issues. We don't. If our children go leave the house without a scarf, we're okay with it. If our children are wearing jeans, we're okay with it, and we don't really worry about what people will think because we're not people pleasers anymore. That generation were very much people pleasers because they didn't know any better. They didn't think anything differently. Whereas our fears and our boundaries are different to that generation. Like now we have a lot of issues with drink and drugs. In those days, our parents didn't even know what drink and drugs was. All it was is that the English people drink. That's it. I don't even think they knew what drugs were. I think the only drugs they thought knew were cigarettes. So they didn't really know. Whereas now we're more aware of that. We're more aware of these, scams that are going on. Then we're more aware of these other communities that are, being fed into the children's brains. So our fears are very different to our parents' fears, and our boundaries are very different to our parents' boundaries. So it's definitely the time which has gone past, the gap that we have, that gap can never be filled. A lot of people say, "Oh, but I'm like a friend to my child." But you're not really a friend to your child. You're still the parent. So act like a parent. And you might find that your child will rebel, but then you're a parent. You have to say and do these things and let the child sort of like, be annoyed because children get annoyed when parents say these things. But you have to explain to them that this is where we are, this is who we are, and this is how, what our boundaries are. And we do not cross these boundaries. So
Yeah.
it's very different for our generation.
Exactly, you're just on spot, and you said that our fears are really different. Our fears are more aligned our religious values, where we are trying them to be true Muslim in a sense of keeping up the things which are not being allowed in a way they are not being allowed, and make our children be aware of all these things rather than just being a keep our eyes away and look on the sideways when they are doing things. And obviously, as you said, being friend is one thing, but being parent, if we become 1000% friend of our children, then who would be the parent?
Exactly. Some
and
sort of
and
parent.
that the parent shape, and I will say the keeping the balance, giving them space and discussing them. And the most important point is here that you make yourself more aware first. You have more logical points, you have more when they are discussing with you, you should not be get short of arguments. That's where you have to teach yourself to that level. When they ask you question why, you must have the answer. This is why. This is why you should not do it, rather than just saying that, because it's not allowed. When you say it's not allowed, it's just exactly when you are 160-degree speed of a car and there is a red light and you say the road ahead is empty. I can't cross. But if you tell them, road is empty, you can cross, but this is the red light. You must stop at the red light. That is the vibe. That is what makes you safe. So this is the topic of today is that as an a parent, get educated, get information, get the logical points. So when you discuss with your children, young or adults or any age, you have right points to tell them, right way to tell them, and you can set up the right boundaries, because if you are not aware by yourself, you can't tell them. That's the simple rule. Like, if you don't know the answer of why or what or how, and you are just telling them because I said so, we are not that generation because we were that children where our parents say that because we said so, you must have to do it, and we do it. And we does not raise our children in the specific guidelines. We don't raise up our children in that kind of environmental era where the parents say because we said so, they have to do it. They will rebel you not today but tomorrow. If you don't give them the sound logic, if you don't give them the sound information, if you don't discuss with them why something is important, how something has to be done. And this is my last word for today. What about Sister Shanaz for you?
Definitely. Each generation is different. Each generation comes with different challenges. Don't make yours any harder than they already are by trying to hold on to the challenges that you had as a child against your parents, and now don't you bring those into your life and reverse the roles. You be the parent and let your children suffer from those challenges. It's not going to work. So use the strategies that we have nowadays, move on with time, and get on with life and just enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That is it for today. Allah Hafiz. See you then.
Hafiz,
Bye.
Hafiz.